progress.
Good evening and welcome to the Monday, July 7th meeting of the Green Bay Plan Commission. We'll start with a roll call. Chair Lisa Hanson present. Vice Chair Jacob Miller is excused. Alder Jim Hutchinson.
Present.
Commissioner Darius Daniels.
Present.
Commissioner Ken Ravinsky is excused. Commissioner Emma Fullwilder.
Present.
And Commissioner Kelsey Lutzow. Moving on to approval of the agenda.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion by Alder Hutchinson, second by Commissioner Fullwilder. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Moving on to approval of minutes. Approval of the minutes from the June 16th, 2025 meeting.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Fullwilder, second by Commissioner Daniels. You said that, right? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? And then moving on to regular business. Item number 1 is a public hearing, and this public hearing tonight has been properly posted and public notification has been published in the Green Bay Press Times. The Plan Commission is interested in hearing public comments on the subject agenda items. We invite your comments and ask that you state your address, whether you represent a group or association, and whether you favor, oppose, or only providing information. We also ask that you confine your testimony to facts related to the proposal at hand and avoid repetitive testimony. City staff will provide a presentation during the public hearing, and questions raised by the public may be asked, but they will not be answered by staff until the upcoming actionable item. You must be recognized by the Plan Commission in order to speak, and your comments must be addressed to the chair. Comments will be limited to 3 minutes. We will now open the public hearing on item number 1. Public hearing on a request to amend the Smart Growth 2022 Comprehensive Plan for 3520 and 3542 Finger Road from a combination of low, medium density residential, parks and school future land use to medium intensity retail office housing land use submitted by Dean DeQuain, MJMB Properties LLC on behalf of Green Bay Area Public Schools.
Sure. So the property you're looking at is at the corner of Finger and Erie. It is currently 2 parcels, one being this forested area, the other being the former school property. So the school property, but the former school that was on site over at 3542. The existing future land use is a medley out this way. So you're seeing in blue would be school, in green would be parks, in the orange would be low to medium residential. Back off to the west, that maroon is a medium to high density, and to the north, the yellow is low density residential. The existing zoning, I just want to give an outline with all the different colors here. The black is going to be for the 2 parcels in question. Off to the east is a PUD for the gathering hall that used to be a chapel, or is a chapel, we used to be a church on site. Across the way is C1 commercial. Back to the north as well would be some additional single-family homes, and then back to the west is multifamily R3. This is a view of the property as it sits here today on Finger, looking southeast towards the existing school. What you're seeing up front is more of a larger office space, and then the back would be the old former classrooms with a playground in the back and some parking in the aforementioned forest area back over to the west. So when we're looking at reuses, this would be something that's going to come up in front of this Plan Commission probably quite a bit here in the coming future, would be what to do with the schools that have been shut down. So at the moment, as you know, there are 3 different future land uses, and the city was approached by Duquesne as far as potentially looking into different uses on the site. And with that in mind, we're looking at what possible destination makes the most sense up this way. One of them that we looked at is the MIROH category, which is a mixed category that indicates a variety of commercial and or mid to high density housing, which may be appropriate at major intersections and along certain road corridors. Potential, you take what you have for future land use, you then apply it to a zoning classification. We'll approach that with our next item. But some of the possible zoning districts would include office residential, neighborhood center, downtown and general commercial. Obviously, downtown is not happening on the Far East side. But the other ones are things that we looked at as far as if we're utilizing this classification. So why this? Why look at that as an option? Looking at this image, we know where the X is, where the blue. School, done. The school district has made it clear, this is not to be reused as a school product anymore, so that should get changed. The green for parks, we asked Parks Department if they have any interest in what they had for, or what was classified as in the future land use maps as parks. They do not. They've been discussing different strategies with the school district for many of their sites, and this was not one that they were looking at. And then finally, the low to medium density residential. It's something that we thought of, but when looking at this and being a node at Finger and Erie and the existing conditions on site, something like a medium intensity retail office housing gives a lot of options for future uses that could be complementary to both the existing conditions on the site and to the neighborhood in general. When looking at this as well, you would note that so Finger and Erie are two roads that are both right now in a rural condition. They're not improved in an urban fashion, but when we look at connectivity and what this means as far as where Finger and Erie could line up here in the coming decades and their connections they can make back to the east, west, north, and south, it's a pretty centralized location as far as pathways and roadways that could connect to miles in both directions without having interruptions. So to Erie, you go down into Bellevue. For Finger, you can stop over at Carnivore and you lead your way back over to I-43. It's a pretty centralized location for both the existing and up-and-coming neighborhoods out in this area. So knowing we would have to change the future land use because of the changes to it, and the school district owns both these properties, and it being a corner lot with the two properties combined, MIRH was the idea that was floated forward.
All right. All right, so now with this public hearing, we're looking to hear from anyone who would like to speak on this item. Is there anyone who would like to speak on this item? Come to the podium, state your name and address, please.
My name is Gerald Skoletsky. Our address is 3503 Finger Road. It's right across from the park. And many of the neighbors who we spoke to think that that should be left as a green space because of all the apartments that are to the west of us. There's like, I'd say 10 to 12 apartments that were put in within the last year. And they're still working on it. And Tim here also is in that neighborhood, feels the same way. And like I said, the other people I spoke with also would like to see it as a park and green space which was needed there. No more apartments for sure. I didn't quite understand what those initials were described a little while ago. MRI or whatever it is for that space. Maybe could explain that.
And this is the public hearing, so there's no question and answer. You can certainly state your comments, but there's no return.
Okay, well,
We'll answer them during the actionable item, but we're not answering
okay.
questions.
Well,
at this
that's
time.
my thoughts.
Okay, no, certainly, thank you. Is there anyone else who'd like to speak on this item? Is there anyone else who'd like to speak on this item?
Peter Skoletsky, 3503 Finger Road. First of all, and I agree with my dad that though we don't need no other apartments or anything else. We got enough of those in that then. In fact, there was 5 shootings in the apartments over by us just on Saturday. So like we don't need any of that. We don't need no housing in that, and we got enough housing going on around us. So keep it the way it is, in that, and it's better for everyone.
Thank you so much. Is there anyone else who'd like to speak on this?
I suppose I will. So, my name is Tim Warner, I live on Finger Road, kind of kitty corner from the park,
The address, please.
3489 Finger Road. And I'd like to see it stay as a park, or hopefully not cram too many houses in there. There's big, beautiful trees on there right now, and it's right in front of a cemetery. I think it'd be kind of disrespectful to put a whole bunch of houses right next to the cemetery. And so last Saturday, there were 5 squad cars in the apartment buildings next to us. And 2 years ago, there was a shooting there, there's murder there. So we don't want to see any more apartments there. There's like an 80-acre field there filling up with apartment buildings. And there's pretty many units in each building. There's going to be a lot of apartments there. And I don't know, just every time they tip the dumpster at the apartment buildings, I get trash blowing in my yard. And every fall, they never do their leaves. Half their leaves blow across the street into my yard. So I definitely don't want any more apartments, but hopefully they don't put, it would be nice if it stayed a park, but hopefully they don't rip out too many trees and cram it full of houses. So that's just my thought. It just looks nice the way it is now. So.
Thank you so much. Is there anyone else who would like to speak on this item? Is there anyone else who'd like to speak on this item? Is there anyone else who'd like to speak on this item? Let the record reflect that no one came forward and this public hearing is now closed. Moving on to the corresponding actionable item, item number 2. Consideration with possible action on a request to amend the Smart Growth 2022 Comprehensive Plan for 3520 and 3542 Finger Road from a combination of low, medium-density residential parks and school future land use to medium-intensity retail office housing land use submitted by Dean DeQuain, MJMB Properties LLC on behalf of Green Bay Area Public Schools property owner.
Thank you, Chair. So I'll address some of the questions that were brought forth. Just to go back to what I think the gentleman was talking about, what is MIROH? That's medium intensity retail officer housing. This is the categorization that is being brought forth for suggestion to change the future land use for the entirety of the 5.5 acres on the 2 parcels, rather than being the 3 different use categorizations on the property. So when looking at what it means for, there should be a change no matter what, because as noted back to this, the school no longer exists. The parks do not have any interest in the park, and the area that has been discussed as the park is vacant space. It's not a park product here. This was part of the old or existing school district property that they are looking to sell and not utilize as a public park. It has been a forested area for decades, but it is not officially a park in this area. So noting that there are different land uses, or sorry, future land uses which are not actually being applied on this site, and recognizing the developer would like to utilize the existing school that is there, and understanding with the location of Finger and Erie being an area that has a mix of uses on streets that have potential to be arterial in nature in the future, staff did feel it was appropriate to look into a mix of uses categorization. Other uses you could look at potentially would be for residential residential, as you have across the street, or commercial. In that case, you could go down commercial zoning categorizations, or something as exotic as industrial, but I don't think anybody here is necessarily, striving for that at all. But in the guise of what this means into the node that it is and its location, staff felt it was appropriate to change the classification to MIRH, which allows for those 4 zoning districts that you see on the board. Now, in the OR, NC, and general commercial, you could reutilize that school building that is there into the future. Now, this will be made note quite a bit here in the next item, but just because the folks who are looking to apply here have a concept does not mean they have to oblige and keep and reutilize the school building that's there. Now, they want to use, they've said that they want to reutilize the school that's there, but they don't have to. But this gives potential zoning classifications by changing this over to an MIROH classification. And with that, we would recommend approval of that request to change it over.
Do you have any questions for staff? So part of it's a cleanup, but part of it is somebody's looking at the property too.
Correct, yes. Yep, this is a formal submission by a developer that has worked with the school district, is they've been looking to sell off their properties.
Is that a military cemetery behind, or is it just sort of older?
I believe this is, so as you see here, Prince of Peace used to be, so you had to the east, you had the actual church itself, and this used to, years ago, be part of their private school. They've since moved over to Bellevue as a parish.
And the current zoning, or the current comprehensive plan is all over the place.
Yeah, it's both a mix on these
Because
two
based on what
parcels.
was there, the school was there, the park was there.
It's a mix on that, and it's a mix in the whole area, frankly, as to what's both existing and what is developed in the area. Yes.
Can I ask what the bare, no color S-ing through the 5 acres is?
Right. They're transitions between different uses. It's not as though when it comes to these classifications for future land use that they're ascribed to a specific location. It's more of a concept.
So they don't follow lot lines.
Correct. They don't have to follow that lines.
They're more of just sort of
And generally.
bubbles, yeah, land use bubbles. And some of the odd things with the land use classifications, I believe these uses were all around likely when everything was annexed. So we kind of got what we got.
Oh, okay.
So in general, a reclassification has to happen here. And with the mixture of uses that already exist in this future node-like area, that's where a classification like MARH
Right.
gives options here for both retail, office, or housing, which in the retail and office component of this, in an area that does not have a lot of options necessarily nearby, gives a nice mixture of uses to potentially go after with a rezone
Right.
for functional classification for the actual parcels themselves.
But I feel like this is kind of an easy fix for the comprehensive plan. The next item being where we're drilling it down to a zoning, that might be a little bit more, but just going to MIROH is, I mean, that gives us that gives a lot of options on the comp plan.
I mean, I agree. I'm going to motion to approve. I think this is the best possible way forward.
Second.
Okay, we got a motion by Commissioner Fullwilder and a second by Alder Hutchinson. Do we have any further discussion?
I just have one question. The church is not included.
No, so
It's off to this other.
the church is in this, that's the PD.
That's the PD.
And has not been a church for years.
Oh,
It is an assembly hall that has its own PD designation.
Overlay.
So it's been, that use has been gone for well over a decade at this point now.
but the assembly hall is still being used.
It's being used as a PUD, it's being used as an assembly hall within a PUD that was written specifically for that parcel and that structure.
So it's up. All right, well, you have a motion and a second. There's no further discussion, we'll go ahead with a vote. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? And then that will go forward to City Council, what is this, 15th?
Correct.
Next July 15th. Okay. And then on to item number 3, which is a public hearing. And this is a public hearing on a request to rezone 3520 and 3542 Finger Road from low-density residential to office residential zoning, submitted by Dean DeCrane, MJMB Properties LLC, on behalf of Green Bay Area Public Schools property owner.
Thank you, Chair. So we are looking at the same two properties and what it means for zoning classification. Noting the recommendation for a change over to medium intensity retail office and housing. That would be both those parcels if that were to be approved by council. And that means what do we have here for zoning in the area? So we're visiting what is surrounding the property. So to the north we have C1 general commercial as well as R1 low density. Back over to the west we do have R3 very density residential, which has some multifamily units, and we have the aforementioned PUD back over to the east. Further south, you're going to see some rural residential land in areas where that's along Mason Street that has quite a bit of wetlands and areas that are pretty difficult to actually develop in certain situations, as you see in the creek as it gets a bit more fluid back down that way, literally. What you're seeing here are concepts. This is not what has to actually be proposed on the site, but the developer wanted to give some ideas of what they could do to the existing building on this site. It is their intention to do something of this sort on the site. So they own a general contracting company, a construction company, and the area that you happen to see in yellow happens to be more of a larger gathering area of the former school. Looking to change that area that's fronting along Finger into their offices. The question then becomes what do they do with the rest of the building behind it? And they have offered up 2 potential ideas. One being commercial suites of some sort. The other being multifamily residential, targeting, as I said, a 55-plus community in the back, trying to reuse the classroom space. But as noted, the developer is not required to follow these conceptual plans. If the zoning code is applied, whichever one it is, you have to meet the use requirements and the bulk design requirements for those sites. That's what you have to follow. So in theory, they could tear the whole thing down and start fresh and stick to whatever the zoning code is on the site. As noted back to what we had from before, what we're looking at as far as uses go would be OR and C, or potentially C1 with that classification for the future land use. Noting we have a school or old school site and what they're intending on doing on the site, staff felt that OR was probably the best classification for it. So I want to give some comparisons as what it means for OR to NC as far as uses that are permitted, conditional, or outright not permitted whatsoever. Generally speaking, OR is a less intensive mix of uses compared to NC. Staff felt that is appropriate over in this area, given the nature that the surrounding area is not particularly dense. So some of the uses that are varied here is within OR, you could conditionally come forth and ask for single family or 2-family homes. Otherwise, permitted uses include townhomes and multifamily and carriage housing. Some of the difference between OR and NC is you're allowed to do a bit more intensive uses, particularly with vehicle services and commercial recreation and entertainment on these facilities. I'll note your big ones as far as offices, restaurants, personal services in both OR and NC, they're permitted, they're allowed. This is where in the code things are going to slant towards having a bit more intensity with NC as far as permitted uses. And then comes the question of what does it mean for bulk requirements on the site? And that's where we think that, or where the OR probably has a lot more merit in this area compared to an NC. So for your floor area ratio, your minimum requirement is 0.3 compared to a minimum requirement of 0.5. So keep in mind what floor area ratio is. You have a parcel, let's say it's 10,000 square feet. If it's 0.3, you have to have 3,000 square feet of floor space. It could be on one floor, it could be on multiple floors, but you have to have 3,000 square feet. Likewise, the maximum, so going back to that 10,000 square foot parcel, in an OR, the most you can have is, if you have a 10,000 square foot parcel, 10,000 square feet of floor area. So let's just say you have a 3-story building, the biggest it could be would be 3,333 square feet of space if you took that on all 3 floors. Additionally, when it comes to impervious surfacing, you need to have more green space within an OR compared to an NC usage. There also is the idea of looking at commercial, but that would eliminate a lot of the different possibilities as far as uses out here, especially given the context of the existing school. I will note for the folks who brought up multifamily, in both commercial and in OR or NC, multifamilies are permitted uses. It's just how they're functionally allowed to be developed in a land use development sense. For OR and NC, the front of the building facing out towards the primary street has to be a non-residential use. The rear or the upper floors can be residential. Within the commercial district, all of our districts we see along Military, Mason, you can have multifamily. The issue is you have to have your multifamily above a ground floor commercial or office use, something of that sort. So multifamilies are permitted, it's the land use development characteristics that come into play. Going back to the conceptual uses on this conceptual use would play okay with an OR or NC type of use. And so those are the qualifications that we're looking at as far as what it means for a rezone of this property into the context of the neighborhood.
Okay. I have questions for later. All right, so now with this public hearing, we're looking to hear from anyone who would like to speak on this item. Is there anyone who would like to speak on this item? Is there anyone who would like to speak on this item? Let the record reflect that no one came forward and this public hearing is now closed. Moving on to the corresponding actionable item, item number 4. Consideration with possible action on a request to rezone 3520 and 3542 Finger Road from low-density residential to office residential zoning, submitted by Dean DeCane, MJMB Properties LLC, on behalf of Green Bay Area Public Schools property owner.
Thank you, Chairman. So this item itself was brought forth to a neighborhood meeting back earlier in June. There were about a half dozen folks who attended the meeting, and it was really this part, the zoning part and uses that came in the biggest issue with folks. There was pushback for the idea of what multifamily could mean on this property, but generally speaking, the idea of reutilizing the school for an office or commercial use was well received by the folks who were there. And then it was noted that there could be a 55+ potential aspect to this, and that did seem to have a positive reaction from folks as well. I will note that by changing the zoning does not require that it has to be 55+. There's no requirements whatsoever, but that is something the developers had said they may intend to do if they went down that pathway. So once again, reviewing all these different classifications and what it means to both balance a future use where we have a node that's on 5 acres of land in a capacity surrounding area, which is in a mixed capacity, and what it means still to try to balance bulk requirements as far as floor area ratios and impervious surface. Staff felt that the most appropriate zoning is of an office residential, and that is a classification that staff recommend changing the overall parcel from R1 to OR. I'll note a lot of the old schools or churches, we have a lot of cleanups from R1. This is one of those things where if we were reclassifying this, say, 5 years ago, and there was a school still, would have probably been classified as PI. And then would have lost that designation because the school is no longer in play and had to be classified as something else. And so this is what staff is recommending.
So now with the OR, because I noticed it allows for retail, but that's conditioned use only, versus the NC, which is permitted automatically, retail and secondhand goods store consignment. So as far as I know people are concerned about traffic or, possibly a big retail operation, but that's only a conditioned use in the OR versus permitted in the NC.
Yes. I would suggest the biggest thing that fly out of this would be the vehicle services, where you could conditionally have some vehicle services within an NC that you would be allowed to have in OR, and then some of the larger commercial recreation activities that might come into play as well.
In NC,
Yeah, where it
but
would
not
be-
in OR?
Correct.
Okay.
A quick question, with that, I know it's conceptual, can you go back to their plan? As of right now, the conceptual plan, they're utilizing the existing space, so the green space is not touched.
Correct.
But they can, once the zoning is done, they can do whatever, but conceptually right now.
It's
they're
not a
green.
park, right?
Right, so it's.
Well, I know.
Right, oh, right, no, I know what you mean.
Right,
The unused
Right.
tree space.
correct, it's unused right now.
Yeah.
And with that zoning, so the school district is looking to sell both pieces of property off. So whoever the user happens to be here in the future, this gives them the pathway as far as development standards and uses on that property compared to the existing use on a 2+ acre site, which is R1 low density residential, which your typical use would be single-family residential,
Right.
which don't feel is appropriate on a site like this with the surroundings and with the connections for both Erie and Bangor.
Are they selling it all at once to one person, or is it actually separate?
As far as the different parcels, I
Right.
don't know necessarily if they are going to or not sell it to
Oh, okay.
one individual.
Interesting.
So this is, both parcels are not, both parcels are 5 point something acres.
Combined, yes, 5.5 combined, yes.
Okay.
I can't imagine having a house behind a cemetery. I wouldn't.
Makes sense to me, but
Yeah.
I don't know what else to say, like,
I can't make a motion.
I can motion to approve.
Do we have any further discussion? All right, so we got a motion by Commissioner Fullwilder.
I'll second.
Second by Commissioner Daniels. Any further discussion? All right, we'll go ahead with the vote. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right, and then that will move forward into City Council for July 15th. Moving on to item number 5. Consideration with possible action on a request to create a 15-lot preliminary plat, Eaton Heights 3rd Edition, that includes public street dedication at 911 Spartan Road, submitted by Troy Hewitt of Robert E. Lee and Associates on behalf of Bay Settlement Investments LLC property owners.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This item is coming before you tonight because the city has received an application for a subdivision, which is called Eaton Heights 3rd Edition, and it's actually the 4th plat involved with this development. The reason why it's coming before the commission tonight is because it involves a public dedication for a road, which is the extension of Mendota Road. On the map here on the air photo, you can see there's a line here. This indicates that this is on the official map. So this is an officially mapped road. They've been working on this development for a while, so it is included on our official map. You can go to the next slide. This is showing what the future land use is of this area. The orange is the low to medium density housing, and the red is commercial. This is actually, if you go to the next slide, when it comes to zoning, this is actually part of a larger planned unit development. You can't quite see the black outline here, but this is a planned unit development. To the east, you've got single family, low density residential, some commercial as well. To the south of it, this is all part of that plan unit development with homes and duplexes. Okay, go to the next slide. So this is what the plat will look like. It includes 15 lots. There's going to be 14 single-family home lots, and then one of the lots is going to have a duplex, and that is part of the plan unit development. So those uses have all been approved as part of that. And basically, we are forwarding this to the Plan Commission. It's at the preliminary plat stage right now. The next step is going to be the pre-final. So with the preliminary, the recommendation that the Plan Commission has tonight is just going to go for report to City Council. And then once the pre-final comes back, that will come to Plan Commission and City Council for action, because City Council has to approve the plat, which therefore accepts the road dedication. So this is step one. If everything goes well tonight, you will see this again. But this is what the development's going to look like if you want to go to the next slide. Our recommendation is approval, subject to the following condition. We do send these out for review to city staff as well as other agencies outside of the city, a lot of utilities. And then we get comments back from them. Those were included in your packet. So our condition is that the Eaton Heights 3rd edition preliminary plat review comments from June 19th, 2025 shall be addressed on the Eaton Heights 3rd edition pre-final plat. So we just want to reiterate that what you see isn't technically what's going to be approved. We want to make sure that it's updated to reflect those comments that we received. And that's all.
Okay, thank you.
Just a nitpicky question. There is a cul-de-sac that exists.
Yes, right now.
What happens to the white pieces that are not going to be in the roadway? Are those going back to private? Or is that even public at this point?
Could be easements.
Yeah, those would end up going back to the lots. So the new lot line, the lot line would be here for this one, here. So this goes away.
Yeah, cul-de-sacs where some type of turnaround is always required at like a phased end of a one-way street. They only allow a certain distance for cul-de-sacs. So that's why you found the official map showing it going all the way out, and then as they continue the phasing, those just get absorbed by the neighboring lots. And then the road cuts back out, so you don't need the turnaround anymore for fire.
Okay, is that currently public, is that city right away?
Yes.
Oh, it is. And then it'll just revert back to private. Okay.
Yeah.
And this is
Because the
gonna,
dedication will change all of that. So the new dedication would be what's in that area. It should be, if it's 60 foot, 30 and 30.
is this gonna help us for our conductivity assessment where we do information?
A little bit.
Okay.
Tiny bit.
Okay. I don't like being last.
I'd certainly entertain a motion.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion by Alder Hutchinson, second by Commissioner Fullwilder. Any further discussion? All right, we'll go ahead with the vote. All those in favor?
Oh, it's with the condition.
I'm sorry. But- Oh,
Yes.
yeah, that was all, yes.
I'm sorry.
With the recommendation.
Okay.
We meant that. All right. for a second. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right, and then that whole complicated, will move forward to city council.
Yep, it's just gonna be part of the report. They're not gonna take any action on it, but then it'll come back through for pre-final, which is our final plan.
All right. Sounds good. Informational, director's report.
So you have your packet, information on projects that are existing. Tomorrow at the redevelopment authority, we'll be presenting for approval of development agreement with Gorman for the JVS site for 95 units. That'll be the first major housing development out on that site. That'll be presented, hopefully approved, and then move forward to city council for approval as well. And then we're also going to be approving our block grant plan, block grant home funding at the redevelopment authority tomorrow, forwarding that to city council. So, unless you have any specific questions about projects going on?
That's approved tomorrow, will be next week's council meeting? Okay.
I always like to ask about the Monroe project, that's still under.
This Monroe project? Yeah, it's actually, we're out of a planning option right now with the current developer, but I know that they're still working on moving, they want to present a plan to us for an updated plan. We've most recently asked them to consider a grocery store again, see if they can find one for us. We just saw that Sal's was purchased.
Yeah, I saw that.
Mhm.
That was neat.
I'm happy with that, because we like that. But, so we've actually encouraged them to try to find us a grocery store again. I know.
All right, date of the next meeting is July 28th, 2025.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion by Commissioner Fullwilder, second by Alder Hutchinson. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right, good evening. Did I scare you? I should be